Hi, I'm Fred, head coach at Yousuli. Welcome to the Epic Endurance podcast, where we take a deep dive into endurance, strength, and conditioning. Today we're going to talk about how to pace your swim. Before we go into specifics, I think it's important to understand anaerobic and aerobic. What are these two terms and how they will impact your swimming performance? Anaerobic refers to without oxygen, whereas aerobic refers to with oxygen. Anaerobic is the power that you can output on the top of your aerobic base. It is a finite amount of energy that you can use and will therefore run out after a couple of minutes. Your anaerobic conditioning is really dependent on the kind of training you're doing and also your muscle mass. So a stronger and bigger athlete might have a bigger anaerobic tank than an endurance swimmer, for example. The reason why this is important is because two swimmers might achieve the same time on shorter duration, but their contribution from the anaerobic tank might differ based on their capabilities. Therefore, when we assess swimming, we try to look at how big of a contribution is the anaerobic factor to estimate how well an athlete will perform into longer duration. When we talk about a 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or an hour plus, the anaerobic contribution is not really important unless you're playing with surges and doing things that are tactical, but into an even pace event, then the most important factor is going to be your aerobic capacity. You'll find out that sprinters can have a very strong anaerobic power, therefore like their short distance time might be much stronger than a longer distance time. You will find also that some athletes might have a very even pace when they are swimming either on a, for example, 200 meters and 1 kilometer, then their pace is always even. They're not able to swim faster, therefore their anaerobic tank is maybe lacking and maybe hindering their aerobic progress. For these kind of athletes, then trying to work a bit more onto the anaerobic side of things might give some room for the aerobic also to grow. So you want to balance things out. A balanced swimmer is a swimmer who will have some anaerobic contribution to their swim and enough endurance to sustain. So there is a ratio that we like it is healthy. For these kind of athletes, basically working on both the aerobic and anaerobic side will work and improve their performance. And when we talk about swimming, we often use the term critical swimming speed, or CSS. CSS is often calculated by looking at two duration and time. So your best time on a shorter duration or shorter distance and your best time on a longer distance. This does not fully paint the whole picture. The other factor that I mentioned before is trying to really look how much you degrade over time. And there is a term that we call SDI, which is your speed decrement index or speed drop index that is used in swimming, and basically is a factor comparing these two best times, see how fast you degrade, and the faster you degrade, then the more likely you are to have a strong anaerobic base and a weaker aerobic base. With this, you can start thinking about where is your best bang for your buck. Is it a bit more working on to longer sets or working on shorter sets and a bit more intense? I made a small graphic to explain how it works and how we look at CSS, and you'll see there are two different swimmers here. One in red who has a slightly stronger anaerobic base and is faster than the blue swimmer on shorter durations. They're about even around 500 meters, so they were like doing a time trial on a 500. They'll probably finish at the same time. But this red athlete will crush the blue athlete on anything below that. Above 500 or 800 meters, and things start to shift around, and the blue athlete start to even out and has a much better endurance. What is important with our calculation right now? I made another tool, which is a critical swimming speed calculator. Okay, I'm going to show you a tool how to calculate this and basically how to create zones of training. There are limitations. Looking only at pace, this is, again, this is a result and this is a performance. In swimming, a lot of things are really technique driven, and there are many ways to achieve a certain pace when you're swimming. However, this can help you estimate how you should train, especially on longer duration, or how easy you should go on to longer sets, and probably give you some insight. Where are the low-hanging fruits? Where can you make the most progress very quickly? Looking at this page, it's called a critical swimming speed calculator, and it will take racing estimate from and training zone from two hard efforts. So hard effort is really like best sustainable effort. You really want to try to squeeze on the last 50, on the last 25, it doesn't really matter, but like you want to try to empty the tank so you can have the best time possible. What you have here in metric or in imperial, again, I'm going to choose metric. On this one, normally, traditionally, we use a 200, 400, but I made it so you can change this distance. Some athlete will use 100 and 200 when they have very poor endurance. It's also possible to use a 100 and 400, but usually like people don't take very, very long sets, but you can do that if you want. Again, traditionally 200, 400 work pretty well. So let's say the athlete is doing this, is doing a 200, let's say into 3 minutes and 50 seconds, and is doing a 400, I'm gonna make it like into 8 minutes, which is not super fast, but. So first it gives us the speed, the pace. This is 155 per 100 meters, and the pace number 2, distance number 2 is a 2 minutes per 100 meters. The SDI score is swim decrement index, and here again say like poor strength, so probably reflecting the fact that like improving his time on the shorter duration here is recommended. If we had a drop that will be, let's say, if we slow down this a bit, and this is already a bit more balanced, so like this is a healthier and basically in this case, good rating doesn't mean you should not do anything. It means that basically working on both hands of the equation is probably good. Again, if we're a little slower, so at 45 or 50 even, the poor endurance, so working on your longer sets, for longer sets doesn't mean 400, but longer duration interval is probably recommended. Let's go back to this one. This will be your pacing strategy. So this is at CSS again. So your critical swimming speed here is estimated at 205, which is a bit slower than your 400 because there is again a drop in speed. And this is what we'll estimate as your sustainable pace for longer duration. You could pace this if you're swimming a pool that is 50 meters. So it'll give you a pacing strategy for this is like 1 minute and 2 seconds, or 31 seconds, 0.25 for 25. Usually in pools, you have a line in the middle, which is in the middle. So if you reach this point in time, then you know you're at the right pace. I also included directly into a yard. So if you go into other continents, if you go in the States, or if you go to Europe, then you can change and see how that plays. I know a lot of people will have an issue into pacing and how to pace themselves because you can't really look at the clock when you're swimming. People use the clock when they do laps and then come back and then look if they have done in time. There are a couple of ways to address this. You can use either goggles that have like the form goggles that have your time directly shown into your goggles, so you can see your time in real time, or traditionally people using the Finis Tempo Trainer, which is a small device that bips, and you can send it to bip at 100th of a second. So in this case, you could like try to make sure you're on pace. You could put it at 31 seconds and 25 milliseconds, and it will beep at this point, and then you just follow the beep and make sure that you beep at the median line, at the wall, and the median line when you come back to make sure you stay in pace. Or you could have a beep less often, let's say every 50 meters or every 100 meters to try to train yourself to follow a certain pace. There might be also other tool that you can use on your watch, but the most common things are going to be form goggles or related, any kind of smart goggles, or Finis Tempo Trainer. This also is going to give you a pace time prediction. So based on standard distances, so that will be in a sprint triathlon, for example. The current is showing with your current swimming drop index what kind of time you can expect. This is, if it was perfect, this is something again good, so like a healthy, the one that you'd like, and this is the other end of the drop index, so like not on the absolutely terrible, but poor, and you can see that we're not very, very far from the good one. You can see your distance, for example, on an Ironman or long distance triathlon swim, so 1 hour 22:47. And yeah, if you wanted to do a marathon swim, how long will it take you? So of course, this not accounts to your swimming technique or to the volume you're doing, but already can set up some idea. And also when your time is improving onto shorter duration, like a 200, 400, you can see really how this impacts your race time, and what you think might be a 2 or 3 second difference into CSS might play into a couple of minutes into race finish time. And this could be a good motivator. And then we have training zones. So this is how I would arrange training zones. And this is easy zones will be based on our CSS, which was at 205. I'll put easy zone at anything above 220. So like it should be something very, very easy. And the interval distance you could cover is anything really like use the easy ones to put some bulk and volume, work on technique. This is probably going to be a lot of your work. There is little fatigue created here. Endurance, maybe when you're doing intervals between 800 and 3,500 meters, that might be a lot for novice swimmers or athletes, but you have a range of what I would recommend. Training at CSS, which should be done personally, I would recommend once a week, with intervals in between 100 meters and 3,500 meters. Traditionally, people and myself often do like early in the season repeats of 100s with a short time rest. 0.5 seconds, I've seen that. I like 10 to 20 seconds better. The goal is to try again to make sure that you ensure technique and then multiply the number of 100s you're doing, and then maybe moving these 100 into 200, 300, 400, and so forth and so on. Supraphysical and aerobic also is important, especially if you do not have the strength to, if your standard drop index is quite poor and strength training is recommended, then you want to do work here. There are advantages into working into anything above threshold. When you work at intensity that are quite hard, you might improve in some ways your form. So it's a bit paradoxical. Normally when you get tired, your form degrades. But when if you're able to maintain good form and good power and recover, then training here will make training on the bottom much, much easier. It is also very important, something that people forget, that when you train above threshold, you take long rest intervals, and you'll see the intervals here are ranging between 1 minute and 3 minutes. And for like the higher end of this, we're having up to 10 minutes rest intervals. You want to do clean swimming. You want to have good and clean strokes. So 25 meters or 150 meters, full on, full power, and maybe a 10-minute rest might bring some good result as well. This, like we mentioned, CSS and CSS training, even though your zones here are based not on a percentage of CSS, but on how you performed onto these distances. The limitation again is that in swimming, your pace is really technique driven. And we'll talk about technique in swimming. But for now, in terms of pacing, I would recommend this. And this is a tool that can help you also understand your progress and trying to see if you can make more gains. On that note, I thank you, and I will see you next time.